Welcome to Sidetrack, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. So anytime we get new Star Trek, it's a thing to celebrate, right? So let's have a look at what we know and what we can expect from Strange New Worlds. So we've already met some of the characters from Strange New Worlds. Captain Pike was obviously aboard Discovery for virtually the entire series, and we got to know Spock really well as well. We saw the very hot number one, which we're going to see a lot more of, and I'm very excited about it. But actually, this series has now been announced. We have a few new characters to get very interested by. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but what else do we know about this series? Well, one thing we do know is the Enterprise has got big again. In the original series, the Enterprise was around 940 feet long. This Enterprise is over 1,400 feet long. Why did they do that? J.J. Abrams did it in the movies. He made that thing massive. They haven't quite gone that far in this series, but what they have realised was that this ship, the original Enterprise, needed to compare to Discovery. They'd already built Discovery, and we kind of had an idea how big she was, so when they realised they were going to bring the Enterprise in, they realised it was going to look very, very small next to it. Nearly a third its size. So they had to upscale the Enterprise, and that's never a bad thing. It's made it a little bit bigger. I'm not a purist when it comes to canon a lot of the time, as long as they don't mess with the history too much, which we'll talk about a little later in the video. But, you know, they've upgraded this ship. I think they needed to. So they've changed 25% of the design of the Enterprise, the actual shape and the some of the design features. A lot of people have said that's because CBS don't really own the rights to Star Trek, so they've had to change it for copyright reasons. It's not why they've done it. But could you genuinely imagine an exact replica of the original series Enterprise in a modern series, TV series? It would look ridiculous. So yes, they've modernised the design using brand new special effects. They were able to do so much more with the Enterprise, and we get to see a lot more detail. It was also, though, designed, supposedly, to be an Enterprise that could evolve. A ship that's not quite as advanced as the vessel Kirk will eventually captain. It's also not supposed to look quite as advanced as the Discovery, that supposedly, at the time, was the most advanced ship in the fleet. But I also love how they've done the interior. They've took a lot of the design features from the original bridge, and they've just made it bigger. You know, they've took the red or orange, God, that was a big argument. The turbo lift doors are still in the same position. That banister that surrounds the captain's chair, you know, the captain's chair is very, very similar to the original series. So they've took little design elements and they've just modernised it for a modern audience and modern special effects. And I think that was really important to do. And from what we've seen so far, they've done a beautiful job. I also love how they made the view screen out of transparent aluminium instead of, aluminum. Instead of just a TV screen or just a window. Because in the original series, it's kind of a window that they project stuff onto. They couldn't have that as a stupid modern design idea, but transparent aluminium. A little nod to the voyage home there. So what do we know about the characters? Obviously, yeah, Anson Mount has come back as Captain Pike. Ethan Peck is back as Spock. And Rebecca Romeich is back as number one. Oh my god, she's hot. But she's back as the number one. We actually have a couple of new characters, though, as well. It has been announced that Celia Rose Gooding is going to play Cadet Uhura. I love that, and I'd love to see. I'm really interested to find out what they're going to do with this character. But the character I'm most interested in, the one that's got a little bit of mystery too, is the Khan character. Now, we're not going to see Khan Noonien Singh in the series, but are we seeing an ancestor? Christina Chong is going to be playing Lahan Noonien Singh. Now, there is no way in hell that is a coincidence, and obviously the internet is ablaze with theories. But let's break it down a little bit from what we know about Khan and what we know about the storyline, and particularly where this series fits in compared to the original series. So Khan Noonien Singh was the leader of this Superman rebellion, these genetically engineered humans that were cleverer, smarter, and very, very aggressive. They triggered the eugenics war between 1992 and 1996. At one point, Khan controlled the population of like a quarter of the Earth. He had an empire that was as vast as the British Empire was, but humanity fought back and they were eventually defeated. Khan took the survivors, his supermen and women, and got aboard the Botany Bay and cryogenically went into a deep sleep, only to then be found by Kirk 10 years after the Strange New World series is set. We also know that much of the records from the Eugenics War were destroyed, either at this point, either at the end of the Eugenics War, or because of World War III that happened a few decades later. So there aren't many records from this time. When the original series crew find Khan, they don't know who he is. They don't know what he is. Now, is that going to be important to Strange New Worlds? Could this Laan Noonien Singh character actually be an open genetic augment? Or is she hiding but she can keep her name because nobody knows what or who she is? In the Enterprise series, towards the end of Series 4, we had the double episode where we saw Anak Sung. He had found some of the augmented frozen embryos, and he thought if he raised them properly with correct teaching, he could maybe teach out some of those aggressive tendencies. He failed. It turned into a massive battle. But the one thing that's always interested me is, we don't know who created the original augments. We do know that Khan killed the scientist, supposedly, but we don't know who that scientist was. We also don't know how Arik Sung then found those embryos. Perhaps this was another Sung character, perhaps Arik's father, who was actually the original engineer. Is this something that we could find out about more in Strange New Worlds? Might we actually find out a little bit more about the Eugenics War and how this all ties in together? The Sung character, obviously, is one that reappears repeatedly throughout Star Trek. We've seen Atan Ingo Sung in the last Picard series, creating an android nation on a distant planet. And obviously Often Rung Sung, who created Data and B4 and Law, and was really the father of android technology. Could there be another Sung about to appear in Strange New Worlds? Is Brent Spiner going to get another chance? Records have not happened yet. So we're way off that. So we are in a sort of Cold War on and off aggression with the Klingons. The Romulan conflict has happened, something I would have loved to have seen in Enterprise, but we never got to see. Could they maybe change canon, and could be that something we get to see in Strange New Worlds? I doubt it. The showrunners have basically said that this is going to move back towards more of an episodic series, more of like classic Star Trek, and away from what we've seen in Picard and Discovery, where it's that overarching single story throughout a series. We're going to get back to more like the original series of Star Trek or The Next Generation. That's something I'm really excited to see. So I don't think we're going to see any sort of big wars or conflicts in this series. And anyways, like I say, the time frame is wrong for the Romulan conflict anyway. But in this time frame, very little is known about the Romulans. We know that from the original series and even the beginnings of TNG, that the Romulans were not well known by the Federation, that they were very secretive. And even when we did have a conflict with them, it was done at distance. We didn't fight them sort of hand to hand. It was not an aggressive all-out war like it was with the Klingons. So that is something that potentially this series could explore. Something that really disappointed me about the Enterprise series was we never really got to see the birth of the Federation. This is 10 years before the original series. The Federation is well established, but it is a little bit younger. We know from sort of the J.J. Abrams movies that when Pike was captain of the Enterprise, it was sort of like the beginnings of the Federation. Could they sort of write that more into the Stranger Worlds series and sort of fix some of the mistakes that I feel Enterprise made? But that's where I come to my concerns about this series. I don't like prequels. I've said it in many episodes before. I don't like prequels. I think they risk messing with canon. We know the Star Trek history. We have loads of books, we have loads of things, we have loads of information about the Star Trek history. And that can be a good thing because it gives us some continuity and it gives them, the show writers, something to work off. But when they want to do something new, they want to do something interesting, it limits them. They basically have a choice. They can either mess with canon or they can stick to it. And maybe that limits their creativity. Now I know that Leonard Nimoy actually said, just be a Star Trek fan. Don't worry too much about canon. And I agree with him to a point. I don't think we have to be purists about this. It's a TV show at the end of the day. But at the same time, there is a history to the show, and we are geeks. We love Star Trek for a reason. We love the detail. I don't want that detail to be messed with too much. That is a real risk with this TV show because I don't quite know the point of it. I understood the point of Star Trek Enterprise. The idea was, I think, over the 7 years, if they'd have got that far, that we were going to see the beginnings of the Federation. The Federation already exists for Stranger Worlds. We've already seen through the original series a lot of the exploration of the space around Earth. And then in TNG, we've seen that even more. So where are they actually going to go that's different? What are we actually going to see that's interesting in this series? What is the point of the series? I'm not quite sure. They've taken so much inspiration from that original unaired pilot of Star Trek that I love to think that they really do have a plan for this series. So let's look forward to new Star Trek, as we always do. And it should be out, hopefully, around the May-June 2022. If you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. It really helps us out. And please, go on Facebook. There is a link in the description. We have our own group. And I would love you guys to post any ideas you've got for new videos, any memes you come across. They're always brilliant. I post all new trailers on there and all sorts of things like that. And I'll see you next time.